across California tonight are threatening 17,000 homes and other buildings.
Stings every time these gusts come through.
Remember, Miami and Miami Beach is not in the heart of the island.
But some scientists say no matter what's done, many U.S. cities are doomed to sink.
Middle class and lower income residents are getting priced out of the market.
Does this scene look familiar? The best science fiction works of the day are based on catastrophic events that have crippled the world to the point of apocalypse and dystopia. Except this isn't science fiction. This is real life. Our world looks more and more like the dystopias we read about and watch in movie theaters.
Let's look at Blade Runner. Its futuristic setting and blinding skylines encapsulate the idea of vertical cities. These cities emphasize how a growing working class down below is forgotten as the wealthy build higher. The vertical nature of these cities depicts gentrification through the spreading physical separation between the powerful and the poor. In Blade Runner, the streets represent unwanted land distant from towering industrialized city centers, and the popular culture clearly recognizes that disadvantaged groups are forced into lesser conditions. Dubai embodies both Blade Runner's and Metropolis' setting. The Burj Khalifa is an iconic image of opulence amidst the forgotten working class and slums they're pushed into. The working class is essentially used as slave labor as Dubai develops and further attracts the wealthy, overshadowing the majority population.
Take Atlanta, for example. Atlanta's history often inspires creative uses of old infrastructure. The Olympic facilities for the 1996 Games have been co-opted by Georgia Tech and professional sports teams. The Atlanta railroad tracks have been converted to walking paths and sites for retail. On the surface, economic growth and renewal act as a positive force. Development extending from downtown has led to greater employment opportunities. The billion-dollar Mercedes-Benz Stadium employs thousands and revitalized surrounding communities. Yet, as Atlanta has expanded in recent years, so too has its appeal to young non-Atlanta natives. The swell in demand for housing in these areas of the city has increased rent prices to the point that low-income communities are increasingly pushed out of the city as housing prices soar and industries fail to meet their needs.
We don't need science fiction to warn us of the impact gentrification can have. We see it every day.
Yet, not all is lost.
The affordable housing crisis and gentrification must be combated through legislation with inclusionary zoning and privately through community involvement.
Within the public sector, low-income and minority communities have historically been zoned out of residential areas. Municipalities rarely form neighborhoods with affordable housing. However, as the Brookings Institute observes, there are a growing number of states implementing inclusionary zoning, a practice that prevents low-income populations from falling through the cracks. In Washington, D.C., for example, inclusionary zoning laws maintain that 10% of residential development and urban revitalization projects must be designated affordable rental or for sale units. This legislation is a step in the right direction as it reinstates the victims of gentrification into their original neighborhoods. Specifically in DC, where more than 50% of city property has endured some form of gentrification.
Additionally, industries must partner with communities and work toward a common goal. Members of a neighborhood know how best to improve it. West Atlanteans know about food deserts. New Yorkers know of their declining public schools. Families from any given neighborhood have needs and expectations that must be met to prevent mass exodus of culture. And without permanent residents in each community, cities cannot stay afloat amidst the wave of young professionals from the suburbs. Gentrification is the product of loss of understanding between residents and industries. Progress does not have to trample non-white, non-wealthy individuals.
Vertical cities and abuse of the working class population will be our city's demise if we do not change the current progression of urban development. We are already seeing micro-apartments the sizes of parking spaces in China and the US just to mitigate the cost of living. We must collectively recognize that this is not the work of science fiction. This is reality. And unless we change our route, we are destined for dystopia.